Good morning. Today I wanted to talk about, or call the name of today's talk, This is Hard, and talk about the way through. So this has been on my mind a lot lately as we enter the fall. And, I think we have a greater clarity these days that the way that we envisioned this current lifestyle as being brief and temporary is not really so. So this is hard. And how are we going to get through? So when the pandemic first hit, I'm sure everybody did, we had this idea, this is going to last for a while. And we didn't really believe that. I don't know about you, but, we saw a lot of people after the first time we went into shelter in place. After a couple of weeks, they were like, okay, we're done. Let's go back to the way things were. And then after the first month of shelter in place, like, okay, that was really hard. We're finished. And now we can go back to our lives. And this continued, as our shelter in place orders stretched out. And then eventually, they receded. And now, even though here in New York they have receded, we understand how this will be with us for a long time. No, this is not only about New York. We're seeing this all over the country. And we've seen some subsequent fires come up as well. We're currently in this very sensitive place of COVID-19. And at the same time, we've really seen the true nature of our racism as a nation just come out. Not that it wasn't always here. Something shifted and allowed us to see it more clearly. And as you all know, we're currently facing fires in the West, all over, like nothing we've ever seen before. And as you might recall, this year started with this, not in America, but in Australia. The year started with the most extreme fire events the world had ever seen. And now we have it as well. The year started with COVID-19 in China, Hong Kong, Korea, and now we have it as well. So this is really hard, this time that continues. And when the pandemic first came and we first went into crisis mode, I think a lot of us just, we geared up. Okay, this is really, really tough. And we're going to make it. We're going to do stuff. And it's going to be okay. And a lot of us did a lot of stuff. You say us. I don't know that I can say I did a lot of stuff because I wasn't able to at the time. But a lot of us did a lot of stuff. We took classes. We were like, I'm going to exercise. I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to reconnect with family I haven't been in touch with or friends, and just continues from there doing stuff. This is a time we can take advantage of it. Whoa, we have so much time all of a sudden. So I'm going to do stuff and I'm going to become, better human and more productive. And as I mentioned, I personally was not able to do stuff so much because I myself was sick. And I still had the attitude that, okay, this is hard. We're in this together. And I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here and I'm going to help people. And I think the realization that those people that I'm helping are not out there, but they also include me. I think, that I knew that. And on some level, there was still a subtle separation between me and those people. So this is what I want to offer today. We are those people. Those people aren't some people over there that we are going to help. We're in it too. Wherever we are, we're in this as well. We are those people. And any separation between us and so-called those is a false separation. And, we know this from the teachings. And we have to really understand this deeply in our bodies and in our lives and in the way that we live our lives. We're not separate. Not in this pandemic, not in global warming, not in racism, not in any of this, not in our collective grief. We're part of the world, not separate from it. Where are we now? We're in the middle. And wanting this to be over is not going to make it over. We're right in the middle. We're in that time where, everyone's done things that are hard, right? We all have. Some of us have done sesshin, which are intensive periods of practice. What's the hardest time of sesshin? Having done many, many sesshin, whether they're 10-day, 7-day, 5-day, 3-day, 1-day, the hardest time is always right straight in the middle. What's the hardest time for those of you who have gotten a PhD? Where's the hardest point? It's usually right in the middle for those who are athletes. Where's that time where you just, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Right behind that can't is an exhale. This is the way it is. This is what we have to work with in this moment. And this is where we are as a nation. This is the way it is. This is the way it is. We're not going to magically grow superpowers that help us to jump over to next year when this is all over. Suffering is, and we are right in the middle of suffering, and we are always right in the middle of it. It's just right now we get a chance to see it a little bit more closely. It's right in our face. Suffering is. It's not then, past, future, it's now. It is. We don't get to bypass this moment. We must be fully in it. I remember recently I was thinking about how much I wanted a vacation. And just to be, not to do anything at all. And I was talking with a nurse about it. And she was showing me a photo of a cabin with a nice lake in front of it. A very simple cabin, one room with a porch and a lake. She said, Tenku, I just want to sit on this porch and look at the water. And that's it. Nothing else. And I read that, that felt so good to hear that. I really wanted that. And I want that too. I want to sit and just look at water. I don't want to read a book. I don't want to, be productive. I just want to sit. And I want to say two things about that. On one side, as I tried to figure out where that place is that I was going to go and just look at the water, what I wanted at that moment was to be anywhere but here. Anywhere, really anywhere, just somewhere. Like, oh, I wish I could go to Japan. I miss my friends there so much. Oh, I wish I could be in Oregon. This was before the fire started. I wish I could be in Oregon and just in the trees. Canada seems so amazing. What if I were in Canada right now? Anywhere but here. And I think this is naturally what we do. We want it to be all over, and we kind of try to push it, Can we just make this somehow all over? Can we just, hit fast forward on the story of our life and skip ahead to that day when this is all over and we're done? Whatever that means, what does done mean? And I want to offer an idea. And this is it. Maybe we are focused too much on doing. Maybe we can focus more on being. We might be doing too much. I don't know how many of y'all feel this way, but I feel this way. Maybe I'm doing too much. And of course, there's our physical body and our life and our work. I think a lot of us can say that we're doing too much. And then there's also our mind. It's doing too much. This constant state of alertness, of alarm that never rests is a bit too much. What would it look like to be, to fully be, not to halfway be, but to fully be in this moment, in this time, to be more and to do less? What would that be like? I was listening to Brene Brown podcast recently, and she likens this moment in time to what she calls day two. For her, day two comes from these 3-day intensive trainings that she often led in the past. And she said, people would come in on day one, very excited. I'm going to learn. I am so happy to be here. Yeah, this is going to be hard, but I am here with this. And then she said, day two is when really things get tough. And she said, in fact, they had to tell people, day two, lay off the margaritas at lunch. We're going to ask you not to drink for this training. We need you to be fully present, and it's hard. And then by day three, it's like, okay, we did that. We're going to get out of here. It's the same pattern that I was mentioning earlier that comes up, in sesshin, when we're learning a language where we just like, oh, the grammar's not clicking in. When we're training in something, when we're studying, it's right in the middle that's really challenging. And this seems to be where we find ourselves these days, right here in the middle. And when we reach this point, we have no choice but to go straight through. I'll be very frank. I think these next few months are going to be really hard. That's my feeling. It's not just the pandemic and the fires and all the numerous crises and the crisis of race and the crisis of our broken hearts and our grief. It's we're going into winter. Someone from Minnesota shared with me last week how afraid she was to move into winter. We've disrupted our normal patterns. I think Brene Brown mentioned that really this is our new year, September. Labor Day's finished, the summer's over, and this is that time where when we're little kids, we're going back to school. And when we're adults, the summer's over and we come back to work and we're, ready to do new things and really, dig in and be productive. And at the same time, we spend less time outdoors and more time indoors. So this is our rhythm as a society. We've had this rhythm since we were little kids, when we first went to school. And even before that, we watched our siblings go to school and our parents wind down and get ready for the new year. And this is where we are. And we don't have that this year. We're all discombobulated. So what are we going to do? That's my question. And as I said, we're going to start with a focus on being in it. This is all we have a choice to do. We can't get around it. I was thinking about one of the koans from the Zen koan curriculum from the Blue Cliff record about Tozan. And it's called No Cold, No Heat. And it goes like this. A monk said to Tozan, cold and heat. Cold and heat descend upon us. How can we avoid them? And Tozan said, why don't you go where there is no cold and no heat? And the monk said, where's the place where there's no cold and no heat? And Tozan said, when cold, let it be so cold that it kills you. And when hot, let it be so hot that it kills you. Cold and hot, cold and hot. How can we avoid them? Where in the world is there no cold and no hot? Where in the world is there no coronavirus? Where in the world is there no climate change? How can we avoid them? We go fully in. We stay present, cold and hot, virus, no virus. We're here. We go straight through. And we have gone too far at this point, no matter where you are in your practice, to turn around. There's no going back. We have to keep going straight through. And the good thing is we have all that we need to make it through. And the most important thing that we have is each other. We're going to do this together. We're going to get through, go through together. And we're not just going to make it. We're not just going to survive. This is a transformational process. We're going to go through in a way that allows us to grow, to learn, to support each other, to strengthen our connections. We're going to go through this in a way that shows ourselves and the whole world what it is to go through this together. We're going to do this. And one thing that is crucial is we can't get through without being real. So that's what today's talk is about. I am not going to lie to you. This is hard. I'm not going to offer you a quick fix. If you just sit zazen and follow your breath, everything's going to be fine. I am not going to offer you a way to jump over to the end, to the finish line. Because what is that? Where is there no cold and no hot? And this is a koan that really made a deep impression on me, especially as somebody, I grew up in Florida, and my teacher's temple is in the coldest place in Japan. Maybe not the coldest, but one of the coldest places in Japan, and certainly the most snow in all of Japan. And I was so scared to go there. I was so afraid. The first time I went there, when I had decided to ordain, they had 3 meters of snow in 10 days. And to give you a sense of what that was like, as we walked up to the front door of the temple, you know, me following my teacher, carrying my luggage, there was a tunnel of snow that we were walking through. And there was so much snow that the height of the snow went up to the second story windows of the temple. And it was dark in there. You know, the tunnel didn't have a top, although some of them, if people have, you know, closed walkways, they even are literally a tunnel. But this one, you could see the sky up there, but it was really high up. And I had never seen anything like that in my life. And I was so afraid. I was really nervous. And I would wake up in the morning and have my futon, you know, up to here on my nose. And just, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to get out of bed? You know, and somehow managed to get through and managed to do it. And still, though, I suffered, continued to suffer. I hate this. I am so cold. I'm really miserable. Put on all these clothes, layers and layers and layers of clothes. And my feet were always cold. And I was just always like, oh, I can't take it again. And the one time I could feel a little bit of relief was in the bath. But we only get, you know, maybe 5 minutes in there. So I just like live my whole day for the bath. And so finally, it came time at the end of that year. I first went in the spring, and then summer came, and then fall. At the end of that year, it was Rohat's Sesshin, which is the Sesshin for the Buddha's enlightenment. And it was extremely cold. And I would go for Doksan with my teacher. And I remember that particular room. It's a very old part of the temple. And it had, you know, the wood had cracks in between. And you could look down and see underneath. And the drafts would come up, and it was very cold. And that December, on the last day of Sesshin, it started to snow again. And again, I told you I'm from Florida, so I was full of wonder. What is this? I've seen snow before, but I never lose that sense of excitement and wonder. And I went outside, and there was a full moon, and the snow had just started. And at that moment, my head was very newly shaved and completely shaved, you know, no fuzz like today. And I felt this sensation on the top of my head. And it was so sublime and startling at the same time. And it was the snow falling on my bare head. And at that moment, I really understood, oh, cold is just cold. Hot is just hot. It's our like and dislike of it that cause us to suffering. The snowflake is just being the snowflake. It's just doing what it does, which is fall from the sky, connecting. It was me that was suffering, not the snowflake. The virus is just doing what a virus does. It just is. It's us who's suffering. How are we going to be in this? What I want to say is we have to be very real. We have to be deeply human. We're not going to turn into super beings. And I'm not going to tell you that we are. And I think I would be in grave error if I did so. We're going to be deeply human. We're going to be vulnerable. On the days when we are sad, we're going to be sad. On the days when we're afraid, we'll be afraid. And we're going to share it with each other. And we're going to support each other. Being real. Not being perfect. really showing up in our humanness and our vulnerability. We're going to be honest with each other. We're going to be honest about race, the truth of our history as a nation. We'll be honest about the effect of climate change and what it's doing. And in that vulnerability, in that honesty, in that being real, that's going to teach us how to show up. Because when I say cold is just cold, hot is just hot, we have to accept that doesn't mean that we get to check out. We have to show up. We have to be real in an active sense. We have to really be in this fully together with support. So checking out is not an option. You know, I think we've gone through this in the spring when the pandemic first came, and, you know, everybody had all these memes about giant glasses of wine for breakfast and binge watching Netflix and, you know, anything to check out. We're not there now. It's time to check in again. Check in. This is time to really be in our practice. This is time to show up for Zazen. This is time to be with each other in a way that's honest, tender, and real, and not fake. And to be honest with ourselves in a way that's tender and real and doesn't pass over. This is a time to really lean on our routines and our schedules to hold us in place. You know, we're done with that chaos stage. This is the time where we have to really get through. And so we have to be disciplined about it. And I don't mean so much that we go way over here and we hurt ourselves. Again, it's time for less doing and more being. How are we going to be in it? Fully be in our bodies, real, and allow our practice to shine. This is the question that we're really coming into fully as we move ahead. As we stay one day at a time in place. This is that time. When I was on pilgrimage in Japan, I reached a place somewhere in the middle where the initial pain of my legs and my feet had become normal. Where the days became really open and spacious and hard, really hard. And I went through it just one day at a time, fully present, fully in it. But this is the time where I stopped wishing, I wish my feet would stop hurting. I wish I didn't have 5 more miles to walk when it's getting dark. I wish this. Why? No use. So I just let it go. And this is how we get through it. We're going to be in it. One step at a time. Together, fully. And the thing is, our country really needs us right now. It needs us to show up in this way. We're going to have to model what that looks like for others. This is a really chaotic time, and we do not have a moral center right now. So we can't afford to go off in one direction or another. We can't afford to give in to our fears or to our hatred. We have to show how it's done. And fortunately, we have a map for this. We have a guidebook, and it's the 2,600 years of Buddhist teachings. People have done this before. We're going to follow the map, and we're going to make it through together. wanted to share a poem with you to end today. I love this. This is from the first free women poems of the early Buddhist nuns. And this one is called Upasama, calm. How do you cross the flood? You cross calmly, one step at a time, feeling for stones. How do you cross the flood, my heart? You cross calmly, one step at a time, or not at all. Thank you.